I want you to imagine a military career. A young man so intent on serving the Union during the Civil War that he lied about his age and enlisted at just the age of 16. A young man who, as a private, served in the center of the line in the deadliest major battle of the Civil War. A young man who, over the course of the war, rose in rank, enlisted as a private, and by the end of the war was a brevet major. A young man who, through acts of exceptional heroism, was awarded not one, but 2 Medals of Honor. The first soldier in the United States Army to be so honored. You would think that such a soldier would be famous, might be one of the most famous soldiers of the Civil War, and yet there was such a soldier, and his name is barely remembered, for a very simple reason. It was overshadowed by the name of his much more famous older brother. And that is too bad, because the military career of Thomas Ward Custer deserves to be remembered. Emanuel Custer and Maria Ward Kirkpatrick from rural Ohio had 7 children together, but the first 2 died in infancy. Thomas Custer, born in 1845, was the 3rd boy to survive infancy, after his older brother Nevin, born in 1842, and his oldest brother, George Armstrong Custer, born in 1839. A younger brother, Boston, and a sister, Margaret, would be born later. George Custer, who the family called Autty over his first attempts to pronounce his middle name when he was a toddler, was a charismatic, handsome, and athletic boy, and he set his mind on a career in the military. He secured an appointment to West Point and graduated as an officer in the U.S. Army in 1861, just a few months after the first shots of the Civil War. Well, naturally, the brothers, who all looked up to George, who was the leader of the pack, all wanted to follow him into the service. Nevin tried. He enlisted, but he had an ill-timed bout of rheumatism and was mustered out after only a couple of weeks. And Thomas, the next oldest, was just 16, 2 years too young to sign up for the Army. But that didn't stop him from trying. He tried. He was refused due to his age. He tried again and lied about his age, and in September of 1861 was mustered in as a private in Company H of the 21st Ohio Volunteer Infantry. The 21st Ohio was part of the 45,000-strong Union Army of the Cumberland, under the command of Major General William Rosecrans. In December 1862, they faced the Confederate Army of Tennessee, commanded by General Braxton Bragg, in front of the Tennessee town of Murfreesboro, along a freezing narrow waterway known as Stone's River. 17-year-old Private Tom Custer and the boys of the 21st Ohio were smack in the middle of the line. For 3 days, Bragg threw his army at Rosecrans. The Union lines were thrown back. They bent, but they did not break. In 2 massive attacks, Bragg was unable to dislodge Rosecrans. Realizing that Rosecrans would continue to get reinforcements, Bragg withdrew. The battle was a tactical draw, but the Union held the ground, and the Confederacy lost the hope of controlling central Tennessee, a critical event in the campaign in the West. Of the 76,400 soldiers who participated in the battle on both sides, 24,645 were killed or wounded. It was, proportionally, the highest casualty rate of any major battle of the Civil War. The 21st Ohio, who captured an artillery battery in a counterattack, took 159 casualties. After the Battle of Stone's River, Tom managed to secure a position as an orderly for a succession of brigade and division commanders until he was eventually on the staff of General Ulysses S. Grant and promoted to the rank of corporal. It was in that role that he saw some of the most vicious battles in the West, including Missionary Ridge and Chickamauga. But in October of 1864, Autty, who was by then a brigadier general of cavalry, managed to secure Tom a commission as a lieutenant in the 6th Michigan Cavalry and a position as his brother's aide-de-camp. The final phase of the U.S. Civil War occurred in the spring of 1865, when the forces of Ulysses S. Grant finally broke through Robert E. Lee's defense works and ended the 10-month siege of Petersburg. But Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia managed to escape, and Lee realized that his only hope of continuing the war was to reach North Carolina and join up with the Confederate Army there under the command of General Joseph Johnston. Grant knew that if he could prevent Lee from getting to North Carolina, he could end the war. The Appomattox Campaign was a series of running battles between Grant's advance forces and Lee's rear guard, and Custer's cavalry was in the thick of the fight. Time and again, Thomas distinguished himself in the chase. He was given brevet promotions. A brevet rank can mean a couple of things, but in Tom Custer's case, it meant a warrant giving a commissioned officer a higher rank title as a reward for gallantry or meritorious conduct, but without conferring the authority, precedence, or pay of a real rank. Such promotions were common during the Civil War. Tom was a brevet major by April. He had a horse shout out from under him at the Battle of Five Forks on April 1st. On April 3rd, Custer's cavalry engaged 3 regiments of Confederate cavalry near a place called Namazine Church. It was part of Lee's rear guard, and in a short, sharp action between cavalry units, Tom led the charge. He jumped over a hastily built Confederate breastwork and there captured 3 Confederate officers, 11 Confederate soldiers, and the battle flag of the 2nd North Carolina Cavalry. For his gallant action that day, Tom Custer was awarded the Medal of Honor. The decisive battle of the Appomattox Campaign came just 3 days later on a hill in front of a little creek that was called Sailor's Creek. Grant had finally caught up to Lee, and 2 of Lee's 3 corps were forced to engage in the desperate action at the Battle of Sailor's Creek. The Army of Northern Virginia was literally fighting for its very life, and in the brutal combat, when the Union infantry could not force the Rebs to break, the cavalry was ordered to charge. Tom Custer was the first cavalryman to get across the second line of Confederate breastworks, where he grabbed a hold of yet another Confederate battle flag. But the flag bearer drew his pistol and shot Tom Custer point blank in the face, so close that it caused powder burns. The bullet entered under his cheek, skimmed along his skull, and exited behind his right ear. And Tom Custer, in one motion, still hanging onto the flag, drew his pistol and killed the flag bearer. His face bleeding profusely, he triumphantly rode back with the battle flag of the 2nd Virginia Reserve Battalion. He rode up to his brother and proudly proclaimed, "Armstrong, the damned Rebs have shot me, but I got my flag." He tried to return to the fight. His brother had to have him forcibly restrained to be taken to the surgeons to treat his wound. Astoundingly, Tom Custer had captured his 2nd Confederate battle flag and earned his 2nd Medal of Honor in a period of just 4 days. He was the first soldier in U.S. history and one of only a handful to receive 2 Medals of Honor. The desperate, brutal Battle of Sailor's Creek was the death blow of the Confederacy. Lee lost more than 8,000 soldiers killed or wounded. Lee surrendered to Grant 3 days later. After the war, Tom Custer stayed in the Army. He had the regular rank of lieutenant, but the brevet rank of lieutenant colonel. Awfully good for someone who signed up as a private. He followed his brother's career in the West and the Indian Wars, and was with his brother on the Black Hills expedition in 1874 that discovered gold. And he was with his brother on that fateful day, June 25th of 1876, when the 7th Cavalry faced off against a force of Sioux and Cheyenne warriors in what has become known as the Battle of the Little Bighorn. After the battle, Tom's body was found a few feet away from that of his more famous brother. Nearby was the body of his younger brother, Boston. Also on the battlefield was the body of his brother-in-law, James Calhoun, husband of his sister Margaret, and the body of their nephew, Henry Armstrong Reed, who had accompanied his uncle's expedition as a civilian and was just 18 years old. That iconic battle was a bad day for the Custer family. Tom's remains were removed to the Cavalry Cemetery at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and the stone can still be seen there today. Thomas Custer was a brilliant soldier, but he lived his life in his brother's shadow. George Armstrong Custer was a larger-than-life personality and a bold and gifted commander of cavalry. But in 1865, when he was asked about his brother, in a moment of honesty, he said, "Do you want to know what I think of him? Tom should have been the general, and I the lieutenant." Thomas Ward Custer, a hero of the Union, was an extraordinary soldier who deserves to be remembered. I'm the History Guy, and I hope you enjoyed this edition of my series of short snippets of forgotten history about 10 minutes long. And if you did enjoy, please go ahead and click that thumbs up button, which is there on your left. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write those in the comment section. I will be happy to personally respond. And if you'd like more snippets of forgotten history, all you need to do is subscribe.